You are Locked On Lions Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, and away we go. Welcome one, welcome all. It's a live Locked On Lions postcast. I am your host, Jake Riepma. As always, fired up to be with you. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. I was formerly with 97.1 The Ticket, the Lions flagship on the radio side of things. Now with Locked On Sports Detroit, and I couldn't be more excited to get this thing going, and albeit preseason. So you know what? This is preseason for the Locked On Lions postcast as well, but here's how it's going to work. After each and every game, we'll have a live post-game show on our YouTube page, Locked On Sports Detroit. So thank you, as always, for making Locked On Sports Detroit your first listen following the final whistle here for you every single game. Your first listen every day, free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, on YouTube, it's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. The Locked On Lions postcast is also made possible by LinkedIn. That's right. LinkedIn Jobs help you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Now, as I mentioned, my name is Jake Riepma. I'll spend a little bit more time getting to know each and everyone on this stream as it's the preseason. Welcome one, welcome all. We get our feet wet. Lions fall to the New York Giants on the road 14-3. But obviously, actually, you know what? We can get the counter out. How many times we'll say, relax, it's just preseason. And we're going to say that a lot tonight. And I think that goes for the final score as well. Relax, it's just preseason. Obviously, there's a lot more to talk about. So we'll break down preseason game number one. I want to discuss the new kickoff rules. And I think the biggest takeaway from tonight's game, and really the preseason as a whole in the entirety over the next month or so before the regular season kicks off, is what the heck the Lions will do with the backup quarterback situation. Love what we saw from Hendon Hooker, but obviously he exits the game, and there's going to be a follow-up on that. The injury response time, as far as the information available, not quite as readily available in the preseason as it would be for a normal regular season game. You know, you don't have the sideline reporters going in and out with updates and things of that nature. But we will have a read on the latest with Hendon Hooker at some point in the near future. But as far as the game goes for tonight, lots of notes I took. And again, as we get to know one another here on Locked On Sports Detroit, this is your friendly reminder to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. If you're a baseball fan, you know we've got post-game shows, postcasts after every single Tigers game. So I'm not new to the Detroit scene. As I mentioned, was with 97.1 The Ticket for a while, now with Locked On Sports Detroit. To go back even further, since we're getting to know each other here, born and raised in Midland, Michigan, played football at Northwood University, and after that went on to get my master's in broadcast journalism from Northwestern University. So don't tell Matt Derry. I know he's a big fan of the Northwestern Wildcats, and he knows that that's the superior journalism school over Syracuse and Newhouse. I kid. Matt Derry, awesome dude. Love what he does for the Locked On Lions and the brand he's built. I'm honored. I'm humbled to be a part of it. And together we will be a 1-2 punch covering one of the most exciting teams in the National Football League, the defending NFC North champions. And shout out to Matt Derry. He had me on the Locked On Lions show earlier this summer to kind of introduce myself, say hello to everyone. And I really, really appreciate his support in all of this. But that's a little bit on me. Let's get to some of the notes that I took. And as always, your comments are welcomed. We'll try to mix them in just like you would on a normal post-game show. So appreciate everybody tuning in. You know what? Let's get to our comments right away because it's great to have the community aspect of all of this. So we start with Maritime Adam. Hey, Jake, you're right. It's really the preseason. Probably going to have us sign a small backup QB. Yeah, that's where my mind went as well with the backup QB, depending on what happens with Hendon Hooker. But certainly Nate Sudfeld did not play himself into that role. And again, the theme of tonight, it's only preseason. It's game number 1. We'll pump the brakes a little bit, but he left a lot to be desired there. Ryan Tannehill's a name that comes to mind. Maybe he's still got some gas in the tank. He's available, and there's still time. We still got a couple weeks left of camp to bring a quarterback in and to learn the system. And again, I say all that, but I liked what I saw from Hendon Hooker. As long as he's healthy, I think in one game, I'm going to sound like a broken record before the end of the night, but one game, I loved what I saw from Hendon Hooker. The athleticism, looked more confident, and crazy that this was his first competitive game since November of 2022. That's when he tore his ACL as the quarterback for the University of Tennessee, the Volunteers. He was having an incredible season with the Vols. If you remember that year, they beat Alabama. He was putting up all kinds of numbers, and in my mind, could have been a realistic candidate for the Heisman Trophy had his season not been cut short to injury. So then you take last year to rehab, and here he is now in August of 2024 playing in his first competitive football game in quite some time, and the confidence was there, the athleticism was there, the accuracy was there, and I think maybe it helped in just the positioning of things in terms of being the second quarterback in, because Sudfeld played so poorly at the beginning portion of the game where it felt like, okay, who's ever next is going to look better than Nate Sudfeld did, and that's exactly what you saw from Hendon Hooker. And hopefully he's okay. I'm not going to bore anybody. I'm not a huge stat guy. You will learn that about me. Obviously, the stats are important, and sure, there's a component with the statistical element of it all. But Hooker threw he was 5 for 9 today, 36 yards, and as far as Sudfeld, my goodness, he was sacked 4 times, wasn't getting rid of the ball. That's a little bit on the offensive line as well. Threw the 1 interception, but 13 of 24 for 96 yards. But on the ground is where Hendon Hooker really shined. He had the 1 long run where he even ran over a Giants defender, 4 carries for 34 yards, 8.5 yards per carry, and just adds one more dynamic to what he can do as the quarterback in this system. And obviously QB2 because Jared Goff. That's right. And that's the other crazy thing. That was one of the first things I put in my notes. And if you don't believe me, big note taker here. The first time you watch Lions, maybe not the first time, you had this a little bit last year, but this is such a complete team. And for the first time in my life, there's not really a single position battle, maybe wide receiver 3, which we'll get into here, but the position battles are just for the backups because this team is so rock solid and so complete. It's been built the right way. It's been developed the right way. Brad Holmes, the front office, Dan Campbell, everybody else has just done such a magnificent job, and the proof is in the pudding with the results last year. So you enter a preseason where it almost feels like this is what preseasons are like for good teams, where there's just not a whole heck of a lot going on as far as position battles, conversations of, what this means for that guy and so on and so forth. And obviously there will be at the end of, the last guys to make the 53-man roster and those sort of conversations, but not for, I would say, impactful players, as long as, of course, this team can stay healthy. But a couple more comments to get to here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Mary Jo Isaacson, that's going to be a friendly, familiar face because that is my grandmother listening in California. No internet in Yosemite. All right. They're going to the Tigers-Giants game tomorrow. So great stuff there. All right. What do we got here? YouTube user, please explain the new kickoff rules, and nice hat. Thank you. You see my Tigers hat behind me. I've got a Pistons hat up there with an old school radio as well. A couple of football helmets down there, my high school helmet, my college helmet, and of course the Old English D. And there's my Lions banner in the back with some of my credentials. I've got my Tigers credential there, some of my Northwestern credentials. That's how it all works. And that's my medal from the Detroit Free Press Marathon there over my shoulder right there. Oh, wrong one. There we go. And if you're listening to the audio only version, my apologies. That's right now we're talking to the YouTube audience on the visual medium, but my apologies. But that's a friendly reminder that you can catch every single episode of Locked On Lions Postcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts as well. All right, let's talk about those new kickoff rules and kind of break it down piece by piece, because the way I understand it is well, not even the way I understand it. The fact of the matter is it's to reduce injury while still keeping the kickoff component part of the game and reduce the number of times the kicker just booms it out of the back of the end zone, which I personally love. I played a lot of special teams in college. I think the component of special teams being impactful, it's not too hard to look back at the history of the game and see how many games were affected by a huge play on special teams. So I love having the kickoff a part of it, but now as the NFL has evolved, as professional football and safety is at the forefront. Now let's figure out how can the league as a whole make it so the kickoff is still a part of the game and it's not just a touchback every time. So I think first and foremost, you start with the landing zone in terms of where the kicker has to kick the ball to, and that's between the opponent's 20-yard line and the goal line. So the landing area between the goal line and the 20-yard line, any kick that hits short of the landing zone is treated like out of bounds, and the ball is spotted at the 40-yard line. We saw that happen tonight with the Lions. So that's a huge play. If you kick it short of the 40-yard line, short of the 20-yard line, the opponent's going to get the ball at the 40. And obviously that's really good field position. Any kick that hits in the landing zone must be returned. So that's where the strategic component comes into it, where you can pooch a ball in that landing zone and kind of make the returner have to return it if it lands between the 20-yard line and the goal line. Any kick that hits in the landing zone then goes into the end zone like a bouncing kick must be returned or downed by the receiving team. If it's downed, then the receiving team gets it at the 20-yard line. Remember, they were bringing it out to the 25-yard line. And I know it's only 5 yards, but that can be a big difference in field position. If a kick hits in the end zone, stays in bounds, returned or downed, if down, then it's a touchback to the 30-yard line. So essentially what they're giving the returning team is an extra 5 yards if the kicker just booms it into the end zone for a touchback. And 5 yards might not sound like a lot, but hey, it's every little bit of field position counts. All right. As far as the alignment, the kicker is going to, let's start with the kicker. He's going to, he stands by himself at the 35-yard line. That's why it looks kind of funky, because the kicker is all the way back at the 35-yard line, where the kickoff team then is on the 40-yard line, and they have the 10 kicking players cannot move until the ball hits the ground. So that's where, again, it gets a little bit funky, but I'm telling you what, as somebody that played a lot of special teams in college, this is exactly how we would drill it, where you're in more of a condensed space and it's still the same fundamentals and similar techniques. There's some more strategy to it, but at the same time, you're making it a safer play. The receiving team will line up as follows: 5-yard area between the 35 and the 30-yard line, because remember, the opponent's on the 35-yard line. 9 receiving team players must line up, at least 7 players with the foot on the 35-yard line. That's the restraining line. So you can have 2 returners. You got to have at least 7 on that 35-yard line. So there's only 5 yards of space between the kickoff team and the return team. Players not on the restraining line must be lined up in a setup zone. So that's inside the 20-yard line. Remember that setup zone, and outside the hash marks. All players in the setup zone cannot move until the kick is hit the ground, or a player in the landing zone or the end zone. Maximum of 2 returners may line up in the landing zone. I'm sorry, setup zone different than the landing zone. My apologies. I'm confusing everybody's here, but you get the idea. That landing zone is the 20-yard line and in. So it's going to be funky. It's going to take some time. And I think the fact is, it's going to be an adjustment period. And right now, I don't think special teams coordinators are really showing their hand in a lot of this. I think they're holding back in terms of, not wanting to give the opposition something to put on film to be able to use when it really counts. So I think we'll see a lot more creativity, a lot more, evolution of the way coaches can get creative with this as the season progresses. So in essence, I like it overall. I think it's going to take some time getting used to it. We saw a couple penalties tonight. In fact, there was a penalty, I put this in my notes, on the very first kickoff of the game, a holding on the Giants. So there's going to be some penalties. It's going to take some time, but hey, it is a part of the game moving forward here with the NFL. All right, we're going to talk about the Lions quarterback number 2, QB2 situation coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Locked On Lions postcast just getting started after the first preseason game. Lions fall to the Giants 14-3. Back in a moment. This episode of the Locked On Lions postcast is brought to you by LinkedIn. That's right. When you're hiring for small businesses, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team, and faster and for free. That's the part I love, because you can spend a lot of time, a lot of money trying to find the right professionals, but LinkedIn helps you find the right members for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. Look at that, 70%. That's a large number. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place, my friends. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. That's the fast part of it. Effective, speed. That's right. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, and you might not have the time or resources to make the right hire. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Don't forget, linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, we get right into the quarterback position, although I did want to just kind of run through some of the notes. I thought early in the game, and like a lot of preseason games, you're watching mostly early on to see some of the guys that are playing in those early series, I should say. But Amik Robertson made some nice plays in that first series, and then you saw Ennis Rakestraw make a nice play as well early on. So two newcomers, obviously. Robertson, a little bit more proven. Rakestraw, the rookie, loved what we saw out of him. Maurice Alexander, not a good night for him. Muffed that punt, just was not good. The Lions in general on not just, I don't want to say special teams altogether, but from a punt returning capacity were not good. Maurice Alexander had a tough night. Obviously, the 53-yard field goal from Jake Bates, we love to see that. Kick was good. Plenty of distance on that. The former Michigan Panther making a name for himself. And obviously with the injury to Michael Badgley, that's going to be even more important that he just solidifies himself as an NFL kicker. And it's been kind of a roller coaster camp, especially if you follow the beat writers that are there and those covering the team that are at the practice facility. You know, they can speak to some of the difficult days he's had just in terms of, you know, not being as dialed in from a kicking standpoint as you might hope. And then receiving wise, I thought Isaiah Williams was the one. I mean, that was a part of the conversation we entered tonight thinking is someone going to make a step up for that wide receiver 3 position? Isaiah Williams, 4 catches tonight, 35 yards. And Donovan Peoples-Jones is who came to mind for me, but I don't know how much gas he has left in the tank. The Lions went to him on that 4th and goal, and that was when Hendon Hooker was still in the game, and he tried to go up, do the Odell Beckham Jr. grab with one hand, sailed incomplete, but the 26-yard reception for Donovan Peoples-Jones was a pleasant sight. But I don't know if, you know, and again, it's one game, so I'll pump the brakes on that. I'll listen to myself. But the other guy, Caden Davis, only 1 reception for 5 yards, and Darius Fountain, 0 catches, 0 yards. I was hoping to see something from Darius Fountain and did not. But hey, 2 more preseason games to go. So still a lot to be determined. And the other part of this too, that I got to tell myself this, that the preseason games, yes, that's what we see on TV, but practice and camp the reps. Dan Campbell's a huge rep guy. And I'm going to point out the most obvious thing of all time here, but the coaching staff is when that 53-man roster is put together, there's more merit and more substance to evaluate players in a practice capacity than these preseason games. Are the preseason games important from that standpoint? Absolutely. But make no mistake about it, those grueling long player personnel meetings where every ounce of practice is under the microscope, under the film, and same with obviously the preseason game as well. That's under the microscope and on film. But with such a complete team, I go back to my original point, the depth that this Lions team has, yes, decisions will need to be made, but man, you feel really good about where this team is at entering the 2024 season. All right, I want to wrap it up with a little more discussion on that backup QB situation and who will be QB2 with this Lions team, and continue to take some comments here on the Locked On Lions postcast, because I really, really enjoy that component of it. We are a community here on Locked On Lions postcast, and what a tremendous honor it is to be on the air with you on Locked On Lions postcast, and a testament to the brand that Matt Derry's built at Locked On Lions. It's going to be so fun the way we've got this set up. You'll have your day-to-day with Matt Derry on Locked On Lions. None of that is changing, and I'll be here for the instant reaction from the live post-game component side of things. So 1-2 punch. It's going to be a lot of fun. Don't go anywhere. We tie a bow on this in just one moment. Hey, Locked On Lions postcast is brought to you by Game Time. You got to download the Game Time app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But let me tell you why I love Game Time. It's kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4 punch. There's a ton of reasons why Game Time is the only ticketing app you will need. Listen, first and foremost, it's convenient. Secondly, it provides a reward for waiting to the last minute. What do I mean by that? As you get closer to the time of the event, the prices get lower and lower. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NFL, and therefore you can trust Game Time. What I also love, flash deals. You can get even more exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. And this is probably the best part. I saved the best for last. All-in pricing. We all know how infuriating, aggravating, obnoxious, whatever adjective you want to use, it is when you think you've got a great deal on a ticket, you're using some app, you go to checkout, fee. No, you turn on the all-in pricing with Game Time, and this feature shows you the total price up front. No gimmicks, no games, no surprise fees at checkout. I love the all-in pricing. And don't forget the lowest price guaranteed on Game Time, or Game Time will credit you 100 to 110% of the difference. So some peace of mind as well. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but create that account, redeem that code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, your lowest price guaranteed. All right, we close it out, and man, this just flies by. It's always so fun to be on the air talking Lions football. The biggest takeaway from tonight, in my mind, Hendon Hooker solidifying himself as QB2, albeit I'll pump the brakes. We still got 2 more of these preseason games. There's still some camp to be had, but he was 5 for 9, 36 yards, but ran the ball 4 times for 34 yards. But did leave the game early. So if you're catching this tomorrow or you're catching this at a later time on the audio only version, whatever it may be, hopefully there's a positive update in that regard. Isaiah Williams with a big game, 4 receptions and 35 yards. And shout out to Brandon Joseph. He had that interception, the second-year safety out of Notre Dame, played that ball perfectly early on, and a tough night for Drew Lock for the New York Giants. Not this that we're we're going to do a whole deep dive on the New York Giants. But wow. Tommy DeVito, that's right. Tommy Colcutt's certainly played like he had a lot of game experience and diced that Lions team up at times. All right. We do have word in here, and I'm seeing it on Twitter. Appreciate everybody's response on that it is a concussion for Hendon Hooker. Appreciate the punk there. So we'll continue to monitor that. Hopefully it's nothing worse. And you know what? I think that's and again, hopefully he's okay. And it's just a short amount of time that he misses, because Dan Campbell said it just needs reps. It's nothing lingering. But that's part of the risk you take when you run as much as Hendon Hooker does or did in this game. We don't have a lot of a sample size, only a couple of drives there. But that's a part of the equation and a part of the way it goes in the National Football League. So we'll keep an eye on that situation. I'm sure Derry will have a great breakdown as well. Good comment here. Jake Bates' story is really cool. He could be a really good kicker as long as he's accurate. Yeah, he's got the booming leg, and you love to see that from the kicker, because it just adds such another element. And gosh, we know all about the importance of converting on fourth down, whether it be going for it like the Lions did a couple of times tonight, or taking the points when you can. But if you've got that weapon, I mean, look at the best teams in the NFL, the Ravens with Justin Tucker, the Chiefs with Harrison Buckner. The list goes on. That's just a part of a really, really good team, and we know the Lions are there. The rest of the NFL has taken notice that this Lions team is the defending NFC North, and they are a team for real. All right. Want to wrap it up with a couple more comments. My man Dennis, appreciate you tuning in, chiming in. Cut Sudfeld. I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe we'll see. And you know, he's been a career backup. This is Jared Goff's team. I'm not saying anything that's groundbreaking or new in any capacity there, but it just for one bad game, I think you'd be hard pressed to just cut a guy loose out of nowhere. So. All right, that's going to do it for me. Make sure I didn't miss any major notes here. I thought defensively, shout out to Brodrick Martin, who had a sack there as well. Shane Zylstra made a nice catch on third down, you know, kind of working for that last tight end spot in behind, obviously, Laporta and the rest of Brock Wright, and that tight end depth chart as that starts to come into fruition as well for the Detroit Lions. So exciting times ahead. I think that's the biggest takeaway for tonight is it's just such a small taste. And we get so excited for preseason football because we've waited so long. But once it gets here, and maybe this is just revealing too much, but you're just kind of like, well, okay. Preseason football, this is tough to watch. Make no mistake about it. It is tough to watch. However, getting closer and closer to that first game, man, I cannot wait. Sunday Night Football, Lions, Rams. It'll be amazing. Obviously, we'll have the Locked On Lions postcast, and we'll be on after the Lions' next preseason game as they will go to Kansas City, take on the defending Super Bowl champions. So make sure you join us for that. Locked On Lions postcast will be live immediately following that game. And I believe it is a afternoon kickoff, but I got to double check that. But make sure you set your alerts up for Locked On Sports Detroit. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit if you haven't yet already. Appreciate that as always. And don't forget, now that you've made Locked On Lions postcast your first listen today, go ahead and listen to the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast so you can get daily insight to the best fantasy draft strategies. You can win your league this season. And don't forget, you can find the link on Locked On Fantasy Football in the description, so you don't need to search. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hey, we got the first one in the books, just like the Lions got the first preseason game in the books. And although they fell to the Giants 14-3, we'll hope that this team continues to make progress. But man, you got to feel really good about this rock solid roster that the Lions have. The organization in my lifetime has never been in a better spot, and the rest of the NFL is on notice, and the expectations are sky high. You wouldn't want it any other way. All right, that's going to do it for me. As always, thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate everybody spending some time with me on the Locked On Lions postcast. Don't forget, check out Locked On Lions each and every day, and we'll have Locked On Lions postcast after the conclusion of every Lions game. That's what it's all about right here on Locked On Sports Detroit. We'll talk to you next time. And hey, if you're staying up late, we got Locked On Tigers postcast immediately following the conclusion of their game. They're going for the sweep in Seattle. All good things. We'll have a wonderful rest of your evening. We'll talk to you next time on Locked On Sports Detroit.